Hi, welcome to the series of videos talking about natural climate change, or what are the factors influencing climate, and particularly outside of human influence. So a main factor we're going to consider today is the Milankovitch cycles. Now, Milankovitch cycles are named after a scientist with the last name Milankovitch who discovered these cycles. And what they are is variations in the pathway of the Earth around the Sun that change over time in just a natural pattern. And it's a predictable pattern. So how does this work? We begin with the Sun, which hopefully we know that the Earth rotates around the Sun. Okay, so we have the Sun and we have the Earth. And this Earth is going to be rotating around the Sun in a pattern. Now, as the Earth moves around the Sun, that pattern is going to change over time. Sometimes that pattern is going to be a bit more oval. And sometimes that pattern is going to be a bit more circular. Now, when the pattern, and that's going to change over time on a 100,000 year to approximately 413,000 year cycle. And we're going to call this eccentricity, okay, which is just the change in the pattern of the Earth rotating around the Sun. And there are another few factors of change that are going to happen over time. Okay, so we have the eccentricity, but we also know that the Earth is on a tilt. And that tilt is sometimes going to be a little bit more tilted, right? So that it is tilting a little bit more directly at times to the year towards the Sun. And sometimes it is going to be a little bit more up and down, okay? And as that changes on a approximately 41,000 year time cycle, we're going to change from a degree of approximately a 24.5 degree tilt to a 21.5 degree tilt. So we have a change in tilt over time. And there's one last factor that's important to consider, and I'm going to actually just draw it on here in orange so that we can see it. And the concept is called precession. And so precession, you're going to see in orange here. And what precession is it's a change in the wobble as it rotates around the Sun. So we know that tops, hopefully we've spun a top at some point in life that looks a little bit like a carrot, but tops, when you spin a top, sometimes it's spinning really tightly, and sometimes it kind of starts to wobble, in fact, right before it falls down. Now, the Earth isn't going to fall down, but rather there's a change in how tightly it's spinning and how much it's wobbling in its pathway around the Sun. And that change is what we call precession, and precession is going to be changing on a 19 to 24,000 year cycle. And so you can kind of imagine that these factors are going to combine because they're all on different time scales in terms of how the Earth is, how tilted it is, and what that shape is around the Sun. And one thing that has been discovered is that these are clearly influencing patterns of climate change and where our ice ages tend to fall on a cyclical pattern of about 40,000 years over time.